This week on the Push Boyles podcast, we have our special guests, Kevin Carr and Dan Mcginley. All right, 3, 2, 1. It's Bunkercast 14, Dan.
Hey guys, welcome to the Push Boyles podcast with myself, Damik.
And me, Tom Hall. What's going on, bud?
I'm good, mate. You dragged my ass in on a Friday evening to do a podcast. It better be good. It better be good, mate. That's what I'm saying.
This is, I text Dan and saying, you need to block out 8 p.m. on a Friday night. And I was like, is that all right? It might be a bit wild. He was like, it's definitely wilder than what I was going to be doing anyway with your 4-year-old. They got 4-year-old, so yeah. We have Mr. Kevin Carr and Dan Mcginley from Mike Boyles Strength and Conditioning on the show. What's going on, boys?
Thank you for having us. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean, joining us all the way from the States. It's 3 o'clock where you guys are, ish.
Yeah,
3:20
3 p.m.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I've been rambling for 20 minutes. But yeah. How are you guys? What's going on?
Not bad, just, as we were saying before, just trying to maintain some sanity, keep some normal routines, but probably getting a little antsy in quarantine like everybody else here.
Yeah. Just waiting for some good news from the headquarters.
Yeah, I feel like we might be in, I don't know, it seems like the UK and the US are in a similar boat in terms of what's been going on and how it's been delivered and how it's been done by our governments. I think a lot of other countries seem to be doing maybe a little bit better than us, but we seem to be in the same boat as Spain, Italy, UK, US. You look at the kind of all the graphs that are going through, but it seems to be, a bit crazy, and especially crazy PT-wise now.
Mm-hmm. And well, what's interesting here in America too, the way it works with the governments is it's state by state. So some states have already reopened. So like, for instance, like Florida, the states in the South, pretty much Tennessee, Georgia, they've actually reopened like some restaurants, reopened gyms, whereas like California has already gone and said they won't be reopening until like September, like you were just saying about the UK. So it's interesting because we almost have mini experiments going on looking at what's happening in some of these other states, and then we can almost anticipate and make decisions locally with our government about what we're going to do,
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the guys that are already like locking down right now are probably still more sane. It seems like, letting people out and going to restaurants seems mental to me right now.
Yeah.
Over here, it's just like, it's awful. I know Dan's probably in the most sparse place over in Bath in England. And is it all right over there, mate?
Yeah, it's all right. Like, people tended to, do what they're told and stuff. I think that's the difference. I think the countries that handle it well, they just tend to have a population that just tends to do what they're told. I feel like over here, it's like we haven't really been given any, I suppose we got kind of locked down, but it wasn't actually locked down. So it was kind of like people were bending the rules and doing what they wanted. And I feel like countries like, New Zealand, we talked about literally locked down the day that they ever heard of the coronavirus, and then
that's
like
because
basically fine.
They've got a woman prime minister, and she was like, fuck this, nobody's leaving their home for 3 weeks. And it's like, before it even gets in, and you're like, all right, yeah, you're a sharp decision maker, not I'm in an iron, but like, oh, what about money, economy? It's like, nothing's happening.
Yeah,
well,
it's hard. Like we said last show, though, it's so hard. Like, it's whatever you say, you're never going to please everyone, and it's just impossible to know. All these other countries that seem to have done well, the economies in them are so much smaller. It's like, well, how do you predict the impact?
What was lockdown for you guys? What could you do, and what you're allowed to do, what you can't do?
Pretty much everything is closed, obviously, except for grocery stores. Anything that is like essential for people to survive is open. So grocery stores primarily, I think some hardware stores, hospitals, things like that. But other than that, they don't want people outside. And everyone has to have a mask. You can't be outside without a mask. And, obviously some people ignore that, but the overwhelming majority, if you're outside, and it's pretty sparse. Like if I were to drive to the office, like normally I'd be sitting in traffic for a little bit. There's pretty empty out there. But I think as the weather has started to get a lot nicer, you're seeing more and more people be outside because I think that, like, especially at this point being, a couple months in, people are starting to get a little fidgety. So as the sun comes out, so do they.
Yeah, fatigue is definitely setting in. I've been noticing a lot more people just walking the dog around the neighborhood. You see people having barbecues and things like that. This is just within the last probably week or so. So it's just getting nice here. So it's going to be tough to keep up, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we seem to have the most relaxed lockdown out of everywhere. It seems like it was like, yeah, you can still go out to the shop once a day. You can still take your exercise once a day. You can still, like, essential workers can obviously still go to work. What else could we do? There was like 4 things that we were allowed to leave our house for, and it was like, all right, well, that's crazy. I could quite easily not leave my house for those 4 things each day. And it was a good point of a lot of people, because we got told we can exercise for an hour once a day. We were like, all right, all these people who had never exercised in their lives just decided to set out, and you go like jogging, kind of waddling around the park, and you're like, you don't normally run, do you? And you're like kind of just there, which is fair play to them. But I was like, if you can get told you could do this, I don't think you'd be doing it. It's quite
walking around Bath in the parks. You saw some horrific lunges and some horrible squats. You're like, oh god, you can tell you don't move normally. Like, you know.
Yeah, we never had, at least in Massachusetts, we never had like a stay inside order, right, Kev? I mean, we could always go outside.
Yeah, it was shelter in place is what they called it. So they essentially said don't go out unless you're going to one of these essential businesses, right? And that if you have a dog, you can walk your dog, things of that nature. But it's just been less and less adhered to, I think, as the weeks go by. And I think people, it's the same thing where they pretty much say, hurry up and wait. Like they say, we're going to make an announcement. Then they make an announcement and they're like, we're going to do this for another week. And they'll just keep doing that. So I think the anticipation kills people psychologically more than anything.
Yeah, I don't know whether it got filtered through over to the States about Boris's last thing on Sunday night when it was like a bank holiday weekend. And then we were all kind of waiting for anticipation. We've been like 6 weeks in a complete lockdown. I use air quotes there. And we was going to release more. And Dan got quite upset about people not understanding, but nobody understand what he said. It was just like, you can go to work, but you might not be able to go to work. You can go to work, but try not go to work if you can go to work, but don't. And we were like, what?
It was basically common sense advice, and the whole British public were like, what do we do? And it's like, they just need to be told, and you're just like, oh god, it's just painful. It's really painful. But I think the reason over here they kind of relaxed and ended it is because like Dan said, people were just doing it anyway. So it was like, actually, do you know what? If we try and make this any stricter, people are just going to revolt from it anyway. So it was almost inevitable. And basically, the guy said on Sunday night, he was like, "Yeah, as of Wednesday, you can do this." And I was just like, "Well, they're going to do it tomorrow, aren't they? Like, why have you bothered saying as of Wednesday?" But that's the British public for you. So
yeah, it's crazy. And this was my first day playing golf again. I was so happy that the golf course opened. So they were open and tennis courts were open. So I'm playing tennis tomorrow, and I got to play golf today. So happy. It was a bit of a.
Yeah, I was gonna try to play next week.
It's like, but it was so good. Like we got around in 3 hours. It was super quick. It's only 2 balls allowed. There's only it's 10-minute intervals, so you never kind of catch up with the group in front. We did by the 18th, but it's like. It was beautiful, and it's a beautiful day right now. It's awful. It's awful. It's awesome right now. Yes. All right. So we should probably talk into some more fitness-based chat. I'm assuming this is what the podcast. Generally speaking, guys, we tend to kind of veer off on tangents and not keep it very fitness-related, but we'll try for you guys ish. It's usually something else. That's just what we're looking for. So we're just going to see. So both you guys work at the facility that I visited in the winter. I was like November, right? November.
Yeah, it was cold.
It was cold, yeah, it was fucking cold. We remember that. Josh like freezing his nuts off the whole time. He's a bit soft. So, yeah, we stayed in some strange neighborhood that we'd never heard of, and you guys had never really heard of, so it was a bit odd.
Yeah, where did you guys stay?
It was in Malden, I think. Malden?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We frequently visited a 7-Eleven, which seemed to have more like drug addicts outside it more than anything else. But yeah, it was decent. But you talk to us about what you two do at Mike Boyles Strength and Conditioning and what your kind of roles and what you're heading up.
Yeah, I mean, we both, speaking for Dan and myself, like both see a pretty big variety of clientele. At MBSC, we have like general population, like your mom, your dad, coming in training before work, coming in the evening after work. We have professional, collegiate, and high school athletes. In the summertime, when school's out, they'll be there all day long from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And so we'll do anything from group training to personal training. So we could do one-on-one with like a 60-year-old woman 1 hour, and then a group training session with a bunch of college kids, at another hour, and then a one-on-one with a professional athlete at another hour, right? So, it enables us to wear a lot of different hats, work with a lot of different populations over the course of a full day. So it's a pretty dynamic population we get to see.
Yeah, 100%. And you both both of these guys taught me on my CFSC level 1. So that's what elsewhere you came over to do that. What's the story behind that as well? Because I know, Kevin, you got a big role in that as well, and Dan's traveling around with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a really a good addition to our overall business. So a while back, and people have been asking Mike Boyle to put together a certification for years, and it wasn't ever something he was interested in for a couple of reasons. I think one, he had kind of established himself. He's getting older, and he didn't necessarily want to have to build a certification business. But also because the way we kind of look at certifications at MBSC is that we don't necessarily hire based on, hey, you have to have an NSCA, or you have to have an ACE, or you have to have ACSM. We don't really hire based on people's certs, because everyone who works for us has to go through a 3-month internship before we hire them. So we essentially certify them our own way. And so after a while, finally, we were like, all right, let's build the certification. So, Kevin Larrabee, Brendan Rick, myself, kind of put our heads together with Mike and said, we're going to build it, but it's going to be based on pretty much our internship criteria to build CFSC. We want to be able to create coaches, at least in a condensed time frame, with the online material and with the one-on-one, with the practical course that you attended, try to replicate some of those things that we teach in the internship process. And that's really, it's grown beyond what we ever really expected it to be. But I think it's served as its purpose as to like what we set it out to be,
100%. Did either of you do interning?
We both did. Yeah,
we both did. Yeah,
both intern.
Basically everyone we've hired has interned at some point. So Kevin was actually he was the intern coordinator at that time that I was that I interned. So him and Brendan were my coordinators.
Brutal dictators.
Brutal dictators. It's terrible experience.
But I'll tell you, like, the internship is tough.
Is it tough?
I mean, what I tell people, it's a really good way to decide if you actually want to be a coach. Because obviously a lot of people get into fitness because they like fitness and they were into sports or they're into working out themselves. But it becomes very clear to you once you start coaching for 12, 14 hours a day, and you're getting paid next to nothing as an intern. And, especially in the summer, the days are long, and you realize it's not about you. Right. And I think we have people, like Dan could tell you, we had people like within the first week drop out over the summer. And I always tell them, hey, that's fine. It's not just I'd rather you quit now than you torture yourself. And then we have some people who like really realize like, hey, this was really what I want to do. And so we end up kind of, by the end of it, you get the cream of the crop. And then we usually need to hire 1 or 2 coaches, and we're able to pull them right in from that internship process. And that's what we do with Dan.
Yeah. Yeah.
You cream of the crop, weren't you, Dan?
I was
Wow.
We hired a couple of you out of that group, right?
I think it was just me. I mean, John may have been on for a little while. John Carr was on for a little bit.
Yeah, he was.
We had a pretty good crew.
The problem over here, we don't have that. We don't have that sort of process. Over here, everyone gets sold like you said, you're into fitness, you like training, and the amount of people who transition their careers, and it's great to see when they get to some of them 30, 35, especially in London, and they're like, I love fitness, I hate my corporate job, I really want to do this. And I'm like, it's great, the enthusiasm's amazing, but just remember, you're not working out for 2 hours then going home. You're here. Because when me and Tom started, we started looking at the same time in the gym, and we knew that the day we got there, we were like, hang on, if we just stay here every hour of every day for the next 3 months, we're going to get full, and we're going to learn shitloads, and we're going to absorb everything. But yeah, people come into it thinking, oh, I really enjoy fitness, I like fitness, it seems like a cool job. And I'm like, yeah, for the hour that you're here, it does. Keep training you. That is a fun hour, I agree with you, but actually doing this for 14 hours straight is taxing, and it takes its toll. It's still great fun and whatever, but and then people go, in London you charge £70 an hour, and it's like, yeah, but it's not like that's it. It's not like that's all the work I do, and you know, it's fascinating over here. People get sold the dream, as you said, and we don't have that sort of process. They sort of go into with a job, they quit their job, they start it, and then a year in, they go, hang on a minute, this is harder than it looks, and they kind of leave. That's kind of what happens really over here.
Yeah, we've had several people that have left there. Several older people who have had successful careers in other industries and left and decided to come work for us. We have one right now, Jen Fuji, was she an engineer, I think, Kev?
No, she is a PhD in biochemistry, I believe.
Yeah. Super smart. Was successful in another career, and she was actually training there. She was one of our clients, and she just decided she wanted to. So she did the internship, and now she works. So
decent.
Yeah. It's great when it works out as well. When they find that and they love it, I think it's great. It's just like you say, there are a lot of people see it as they just assume it's an easy thing, or like you said, they enjoy it, and they forget that the reason they enjoy it is because they do it for 4 hours in a week rather than 45 or whatever.
Exactly.
Third space, like per PT team, we try to fit about 2 or 3 of those characters in the teams to kind of nurture and kind of show them, because they tend to be good as well. They tend to have a little bit more of a work ethic. They realize that like, oh, I've actually got to go study for this. I'm not just going to fall on my ass, or this is, if I'm switching career, I've got actual other stuff I need to look after. So they tend to be pretty decent as well. Only the ones that come to like our courses or come to seminars and stuff like that, they tend to be all right. The only internship thing I can kind of relate is both me and Dan worked in professional football, so soccer, prior to PTing, and we both left it. So Dan worked a little, well, I'd say higher up. We both had the same job, but his team got to the Premiership, my team got to the Championship. So he will always let me know that. Yeah.
My team made it to the EPL, mate. Don't you worry about
that. We got promoted whilst I was there, but yeah, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't down to me, 100%. I mean, like cleaning like cups and stuff where the protein shakers was really good. But yeah, the only thing that kind of is classified, we'd have that. And it was like minimal pay, working all the time. I was there during my master's degree. Were you doing that at the same time as well, Dan? Were you John Moores or you Hull?
No, it was after my master's. I'd finished my master's, yeah.
So I did it during, and it was just like awful. And yeah, we both left because we wanted to. Yeah, we were just like,
I think that's one of the things that hopefully separates our internship from a lot of others, is that we need those, especially in the summertime. We need those coaches coaching, so they get a lot of practice and a lot of reps pretty quick, as opposed to them. I mean, they clean and everything too, but
yeah,
they're on the floor coaching as well, and that's how it was when I interned. That's how it is now. So
I mean, I was there, you could tell, like, speaking to all the interns when we were just like looking around, and they were super helpful. They were just like, they loved being there. Was number one as well, and you could tell that was like the place they wanted to be and what they wanted to do, which is amazing. I wish that had happened to every trainer that we had or have right now, but it's just a different kind of. I think because you've built that, Mike's built it from a long time and gets to cherry pick as well. So maybe it's more right now for us is obviously like expansion as well. What we have been expanding, it's been like business decisions where we've got to have these guys in so we can train them up if we can, but it's a little bit tougher. So
a couple of things on the internship too, like Dan said, like we couldn't operate our business, especially in the summer, without them. Like we really rely on them to coach. And at the start, you're almost like, this is like crazy. It's almost like trial by fire. Like we do a staff training week for like 2 weeks, week and a half before the summer starts, where it's just our staff, and like everyone from me and Dan all the way to the newest intern, like go back through our entire system, pretty much like a week and a half of CFSC, like almost on steroids. Then they get like kind of a week of shadowing groups. And then it's kind of like, hey, help warm up this group. All right, I need you to watch this athlete. Like they're getting thrown in. And they're kind of learned by doing right away. So, we manage the risk, but we put them right in there, which, I think by the end of a 12-week internship, in the summer, all of a sudden they come out with, you talk about 10,000 hours, like they're getting 12 hours a day right there for 4 days a week. And going back to, you said about people from outside of the fitness realm, like some of our best coaches, like a kid like Steve Bigelow, he was a business major at UMass. And he came and applied for our marketing office internship to like work in our office. And he like was there for a day, and he's like, can I coach instead? And we were like, yeah, why not? Screw it. He's a really good athlete. And now, I mean, he's one of our senior coaches. Like, it's Dan, myself, him, Vinny, and, all kind of teaching a lot of the CFFC courses. So sometimes you get some really good people from outside of the normal realm. And like, when we look at the internship applications, like, I used to be the one who would go through all those. And I don't always take people. I'll take people who are outside of the kinesiology or exercise science major all the time, because I can teach them how to coach. I can't teach them to have a personality, and I can't really make them a good athlete. Like, I would say, like, the way we hire people for an internship when they first come in is, if they can't come in for an in-person interview, because we get some internationals or people from all around the U.S., they have to send in a video, on camera, telling us why they want to coach here, and it's really so that we can get a feel for their personality. Like, if I can't watch a 3 to 5 minute video of you without being like snooze fest, then like the high school kids don't want to listen to you, right? Like, so like, I'll take a favor over someone who's creative. Like, I can think back to like someone like Kendra or Jill or Glenn, like some of these people or Aaron is the one I always use, my kid, Aaron Swalson. His internship video was like a comedy sketch. Like, he was literally, I was crying laughing. And so he took a chance by like sending a professional, like, it was literally him making jokes, and like, it was all choreographed, but it was hilarious. I was like, I'm going to hire this kid. And he was one of our best hires that we had. So a personality goes a long way. And like, if I put you through the internship and you can learn quick, then I'd rather have you be a little behind on the coaching knowledge and a little bit further ahead on the personality traits.
Oh yeah, massively. I think you should, if you like that kind of comedy stuff, as well. If it wants to be fitness based, our man Dan does a little. I don't know. We say double act with you and Mike.
I knew you were gonna drop me in it, mate.
Of course I would.
Like, I suppose, like, me and my buddy Mike, we focus a bit more on nutrition stuff. But yeah, we just take a light-hearted view of it all. People take it far too seriously. It's just like, it's just food, it's just training. It's like, calm down. And we just take a bit of a pot shot at the more like the bodybuilding world, I suppose, and like people who like that way inclined. And it's kind of like, just take it, just calm down. And I think, like what you said there, is we talk about it a lot on the podcast, is the reason that people online hate, like, the online industry and Instagram is just fucking dreadful. Like, it's awful. And like, but the reason people make it up there is that they know nothing, but they've got personality, or they look good or whatever. And it's like, well, that's what people are drawn to straight away. And then it's like, right, do you actually know anything? So like, a lot of the people out there who are good coaches, but they just are dull, like you said, on video or, in person. It's like, well, you're not connecting with someone. Whereas these people who are idiots have a good personality and they make people laugh, so that's why they have 1 million people follow them, and they give out poor advice, but like, that's not their, it kind of is their fault, but you can't sit there blaming them when you're not prepared to learn how to, I suppose, do that sort of thing. So yeah, it's kind of that way of, I suppose, doing it. It's a bit interesting to see how personality goes a long way in our industry.
And we always say the clients and the athletes, they don't necessarily care about the program and the X's and O's behind what we're doing. It's more they show up every day because of their coach. They like their coach. They like the people around, and so that's a lot of times that is what keeps people coming back day after day is the environment, the personalities.
And that's what we find in football. With the internships in football, is like, I loved it and it was great, but I realized I was working with people who were turning up because they enjoyed having a bit of a chat with me or whatever, but they still didn't actually do the work. And I was like, that's when I was like, I'm leaving, because this is boring. Like, you guys aren't doing what I need you to do. Yeah, it's a good crack, it's a good laugh, but that's where I think both me and Tom probably kind of knew that when we went into PT, it was going to work, because it was like, hang on, we've got good rapport with professional footballers, with athletes. We know how to coach someone. They're just not letting us. Like, they just don't want to do it. So we kind of knew, I think, going into it, that if you have a good personality and you're likable and you're someone that's fun to talk to, you're going to be okay. And it's like, I think for me, more so online, you have to be a bit more out there and a bit more, not over the top with it, but you certainly have to be prepared to do that more so nowadays. Like I said, with all the people out there who are spreading so much misinformation, but they do it with a smile on their face, and it's like,
right.
Well, it's the the saying they always say, it's like, people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care, but after they know how much you care, they should care how much you know. So I think there's another step to that saying. You can't, like, getting them in the door is how much you care, but then keeping them there and giving them results is what you know, right? So
That's it, yeah. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, me and Mike we just take the piss like too much, and it's a bit out there, and it's a bit direct, and we get a bit of negative feedback. But it's only from people who just can't hear it, don't like hearing a bit of the truth. And
you get negative feedback for the people who it resonates. It's the people maybe we're taking the piss out of slightly them, and they're like, oh no, I do that really? Okay, and you're like, maybe we don't know. There's a chance there. But scaling back to what you were talking about. So you talked about you have high school athletes, you've got general pop, group settings, maybe athletes and everything, because it kind of cross borders everywhere. How do you kind of segregate? Because I'm going to guess that there's probably a lot of people listening here, and they've got a certain demographic that they probably train. But I know from visiting you guys, it's fucking everybody. You train everybody under the sun. If they want to walk in and pay, they can come and get trained. And it takes, I don't know, like in terms of fitting the system and being able to train every single person, what do you say, is there anything that changes depending on maybe high school athlete or normal adult to athlete or anything through there? Or what do you think the nuances could be?
Yeah, I mean, the general recipe is the same. It's just the amount of each ingredient, right? We always say training is a recipe, not a menu, right? So like they're going to get a lot of the same things, just the methods might change a little bit. Like everyone who comes in is going to do some sort of mobility work. Everyone who comes in is going to go through an active warm up. Everyone's going to throw med balls and do plyo, but that's probably where the intensity changes, right? Like, my mom is going to maybe do some easy med ball throws, and she might do a box jump. Whereas like my high school and collegiate athletes are going to do some more advanced med ball work. They're going to do hopping, bounding, and they're going to do sprinting, right? But it's all light implement power work. Then like our adults, they're going to do heavy implement power. They just might swing and do some jump variations, whereas our college athletes might do Olympic lifts or dumbbell snatch or things like that. And they're all going to lift weights. Again, it just might be for the adults, like it just might be more basics and fundamentals. And then the conditioning is really pretty similar. The adults probably just do a little less running. So, I mean, it's not that much different, just maybe the intensity changes. I think Dan would probably agree.
Yeah, definitely. I think we always think of it as the risk reward, right? Like, so for adults who have some more miles on them and probably just a lot more previous injury, we want to take a lot less risk with them. But it's the categories, like Kevin was saying, or the recipe basically stay the same. We still want to get power work every day. We still want to get strength work. We still want to get conditioning, mobility. It's just, the means of going about that differ a little bit. So,
yeah, I think what falls back into when I start to explain. So I did a programming lecture to all the third space trainers over the last 2 weeks whilst we've been doing all this Zoom stuff, and I was explaining you guys, like your guys' model and how you're doing that stuff, and then going on to like triphasic training and all this kind of stuff, and they're like getting way too caught up in the nuances. And one slide I had is in terms of CrossFit methods and just throwing some stuff at the wall, but there was but kind of the slide at the end was like, does it really matter for a lot of people if they're busting their ass? I think when going to you guys, it seemed to like actually coaching seemed to be the overriding thing. The programming and the recipes were all very similar, and we could kind of just, spending more time here, depending on demographic, but everybody gets a little bit of slice of pie of all of it. But it was just like, no, they get coached well. That's probably what they're there for, and that's how they're getting their movements or going through that. I think that's what I personally, from being an educator in the UK industry, I think that's the big thing that we don't have compared to the US is the knowledge base in terms of intensity of coaching and being able to be like, actually, no, you're gonna go through the system and we're gonna pluck stuff up. We kind of get into this. I don't know. There's still a lot of stuff about bodybuilding, and for example, you said plyometric and medball. I know for a fact that a bunch of listeners right now would be like alarm bells in terms of what you're making your mum do, like box jumps and plyometrics. And that's like, you're like, yeah, they can jump. Like, it doesn't mean she's trying to put like her knees past her, like, I don't know, her ears, and she's trying to jump over her head. But I'm sure she's trying to jump on a step.
Exactly. Like I always say, like for older people, like they're losing power twice as fast as they lose strength typically. And like I have like one woman who comes and she's like, pull my doormat out. It's like a 2-inch plyo box and she jumps on that. So it's all relative. I just don't want her to slow down. So yeah, it's like however you can get it done. It's like you're right, being able to phase things to the person makes that stuff a lot more digestible for them.
100%. And also go back to your that's something that I think might resonate with, I don't know if Dan, when we got hired, etc., nobody really checked how we moved. That was never a thing for any jobs. Us in the education team, we look at every single trainer when they're going through when we hire them, right? And we get them to train sessions or whatever, and they generally see them move. But there's never like a focus, especially when we were hired, on how we move. But do you concur, right? I know you talked about it when you were doing the CFFC teaching over here. You're like, I want to see the coach move well. Like, and if they don't, they're going to fucking work at it. Like, until they do.
We always say too, like how the coach moves is exactly how their group's going to move, or how their clients move, right? So if you have a coach who, for instance, can't do the ladder drill, none of his group is going to be able to do the ladder drills, right? So we want them to be able to demonstrate and be able to literally be the example for everyone to follow, and that's the huge part of the CFSC is you don't pass the CFSC unless you can move and demonstrate and do everything really, really well. So
yeah, and like it's funny, you even see the groups like pick up the little intricacies that coach has, like the way Steve Bigelow's group throws a med ball looks like how he throws a med ball, like the way my group cleans looks like me when I clean, because majority, especially kids, are such visual learners. It's hard to get them to lend you their ear for long enough, but they'll watch if you're good enough. So if you demo half-ass or you demo poorly, they tend to do the same. And it's funny, you'll see interns who come in and can't move well. But the ones who work really hard, like I could think of a handful that even still work for us, that when they started, I was like, ooh, that looks dreadful. Watching them do a warm up, and then after lots of practice, they get better, right? So it's just you got to drill it over and over. And before I was at MBSC, the big thing Mike used to do was just hire former athletes, because like back in the day, being a strength coach wasn't really a thing. So like people weren't going to school for that, but they needed employees. So Mike would be like, former athlete, you want a job? I'll teach you how to work here. And a lot of our early employees were people who just used to train here because you knew you could get a good demo out of them.
True. Dan, would you say that?
Yeah.
Meek, I think it. Which one? You got to be specific, mate.
Sorry, I'll call you Meek from now on, shall I?
Yeah, do that. That's probably easier, isn't it?
Do you think that's lacking in our industry in the UK? Movement.
Well, no, I think obviously in my industry certainly I think it's gone too far. It's gone too far the other way. It's like how you look is exactly like everything, and it's like no, that's not. If just because someone has a 6-pack, they don't know anything about nutrition. Like, come on. But that's just again online, and that is a very visual based thing. But there's other skills involved in it that I believe you have to practice what you preach. We've talked about it so many times. To a certain degree, you have to practice what you preach. Like you say, you don't have to win any 100-meter sprinting events, but you certainly have to be somewhat, quick and sprint well and all that sort of stuff. And it's the same with nutrition. Like I think the interesting thing was you were talking about the recipe thing. It's the same with what I do. It's like, well, everyone to lose weight is going to have to reduce their calories. How often, how quickly, the intensity they do that will vary based on each individual. And based on whether I think they need to kick up the arse or an arm on the shoulder, that's again the skill of a coach. Ultimately, they're all doing the same thing. It's just how much of each you're putting in. I think it's exactly the same. It's all templates, and people like to think they're unique snowflakes and that they're different. They have an issue that no one else has ever got in the whole world, and you've never seen it before. And you have. It's like no, you have. Like I know how to get around it. Like you'll just need to do this, this, this. Same with training. Everyone thinks they don't need a 12-week training plan. They only need to change exercise every 2 weeks. It's like no, you don't. You need to do this consistently over time. Send me videos, get better at it, and progress. But people think that they're different and that the rules don't apply to them. And unfortunately, we're all very predictable in how we're going to adapt and change these things. And it's just like you said, that the beauty of coaching is knowing when to pick up on little things and when to change little tiny things, not overhaul things altogether. So that's the interesting. I think from what I do is it's very similar.
Well, that's like we don't have any real sport specific programs. I mean, we have in the summer we'll have groups. We'll put, for instance, one of the hockey players together. But it's not necessarily the program as much as it is they all like to be together. It's good camaraderie. It makes for a good experience for them. But the programs, are very, very similar. From, you'll see a lot of times in the same group, football player, baseball player, basketball, soccer, whatever, they all train together. They're all doing 90% of the same lifts and the same movements, and then there might be a 10% difference. Let's say like maybe an overhead athlete, we change one or two things for them, or if somebody has a specific injury, that's where we're gonna change things around. But 90% of everyone that's in there is doing the same sort of fundamental lifts.
It's interesting you say that. Have you guys watched have you been watching The Last Dance? You must have probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really interesting watching that, because you saw Michael Jordan's trainer talk about when he switched to baseball, and he was like, his body was wrecked. It was like completely different. It's completely different demands and all this. And I was like, is it like, surely if it was, you just do a good program for any sport, like obviously with baseball there's certain shoulder movements and as you said, there's things there you'd look at, but I couldn't help when I was as a trainer watching it going, and he was like, yeah, for a whole year his body was completely out of whack, he couldn't play well, and I was just like, really though, like, or is that just maybe you aren't maybe the best trainer in the world? I was like, obviously it was a long time ago, right, before obviously it was, I suppose, a bit more advanced like it is now. It maybe was a bit more machine based, but I remember seeing the gym at the Warner Bros studio, because he was like, when he was filming Space Jam, he went to a gym there, and he was like, yeah, they had every single machine we wanted, and I was like, what? I was like, looking at it again, what does he need all these machines for? I was like, he's a basketball player, like, and it just made me laugh, because it was 96 or something, it was around that time, but but yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that, because I would think athletes would just need to be explosive, strong, move well, and it was interesting hearing him say that the demands were so different that he'd ruined his body, and I was like, nah, I don't think he did. But I
think it's really like just the difference of the energy systems of playing basketball and then baseball, where you're sitting on your ass 90% of the time. But it's like, in reality, like Dan said, most trainers in the world work in the realm of general preparedness, right? Like, especially with sports, like, we're helping them be more equipped to go to sport practice and develop, specific movement quality and specific energy systems at practice and in scrimmages and competition. And there's, with the very rare, very elite, that you're going to start to work on that, I don't even say 10%, that 5%, 3%, where you have to specialize. And I think that becomes more so even true with like individualistic sports like track and field, where you're peaking for one event and you're one person. But once you start playing a team sport and there's mixed energy systems and mixed movement patterns, like, our job is to make them as generally strong and fit and like resistant to stress as possible, and then let them go and work with their sport coach and let them go and work with their teammates. And that's really pretty much what we do.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I left football. I don't know if you know. It was because some of our sessions were kind of optional, even though we'd like picked out the data that probably supported they needed to do some of this stuff. And then I remember, name him, Clayton Donaldson. He's on about like 12, 15 grand a week. So like, and I'm sitting there going like, yeah, so I get paid 40 quid for every game that I turn up for, and I'm doing a master's degree at the time. Oh, thanks, mate. But then he was like, nah, I don't really want to do this, like all this strength work, because I'm going to lose my touch. I'm more of a touch player. I'm like, what are you on about?
I used to love it when players used to say that they only needed to half squat because their knees never come up to their chest when they play, and I'm like, what? So I need to do half squats because then I'm going to be powerful and I can lift more load. And I was like, that's not how it works. And they're like, no, it is. And I'm like, okay, carry on. Like, do it.
Yeah. You do you, mate.
Yeah, that's why we left. I just couldn't hack it. I was just like, it's not cool. But I think the big thing that Tom picked up on from when he came back from visiting you guys was something that stuck with me for a long time, even when I was in sport, was you're training these people so that they stay fit to play their sport, not to make them into some sort of superstar like weightlifter that can't play their sport. They need to play their sport. The longer time they spend on the pitch, in the court, whatever it is, the better they're going to be. And that was kind of always, I think, in the back of our heads, always whenever we've trained people, is you want these people coming back. You don't want them to do a chest session that ruins their chest so much they don't even want to come and see you again. Like, that's not the goal here. And again, over here, it's still that way of doing it. It's like PTs just think, doesn't matter if you've got an athlete or, like someone's dad that you're going to train. It's like, yeah, we do a bench press day today, you're going to kill your chest. It's like, oh God. And it's still the way people, even in sport, like in football, that's what is done. It's like, that's how backwards it is over here, because I think it's over in America. I think you guys put so much more value on S&C and longevity of sports careers and get people playing the sport and stuff like that. Whereas over here, it's kind of like the best way to get better at football is just to play football. Whereas I think you guys have realized you need to complement that as well. And that's why some of your guys over there are the biggest, strongest, fastest, and we're not over here.
I think that's a big thing here when I came back, because I don't know, I think it's probably the last so I was more like athletic based when I was started to get into fitness, and then both Dan went into, you did bodybuilding, you wanted to train bodybuilders, so you went and did a bodybuilding show. I was doing powerlifting, so I went and did powerlifting competitions, and then weirdly that started creeping into how we were training our clients, and we were like, no, this is wrong, this is stupid. Well, it's like my clients don't need to do the big three. I was like, there's no point putting them through this. This isn't preparing them for anything. I was like, there could be fundamental stuff that we took out, but probably the last 3 years I've been I did phase 1 exos and putting them through the athletes performance stuff, and then coming to see you guys, and I was like, yeah, this is the crap that I used to do football. I was like, why have I changed this? Why have I got so embedded into strategy sports, thinking clearly everybody needs to be a strongman? It's like, no, of course they don't. No, absolutely moronic. So I feel like it happens as a journey as well. When I came back, I took Dan through one of the adult. I know I took you through an athlete program actually that I took from. You gave us some sheets, and I was like, oh yeah, let's stick to that, and we'll take Dan for a program when I went to visit in Bath, and you were fucked, mate. Absolutely screwed.
And yeah. I think you have to go through that evolution of a strength coach idea. I think, and it does, you learn something in that process, whether it's through bodybuilding or through powerlifting. I went through that journey. I could tell you, I started before I was at Boyles. I was at a Gold's Gym, complete meathead. I would just be like, hey, what's in muscle and fitness this month? That's what I'm going to follow. Then I started MBSC pretty early, but at that same time, I started to get into powerlifting. I did probably 10 meets. And then, you have you have injuries. I got really strong, but then I definitely lost the athleticism. And then I started to really get embedded into MBSC, and I evolved that way. And I think everyone who has worked for us has been through that. And I think that's the way you learn what best practice is, because you have to probably make some mistakes or realize hey, what I like isn't what my client necessarily needs to do.
Yeah, 100%. I noticed that when I was doing a load of powerlifting meets. Yeah, I was getting strong, awesome, but I was also trying to play national amateur soccer on the side. And I was like, these two do not mix particularly. Yeah. I was like, I'm all very rehearsed, very linear, and then I'm asking to play as a forward or just a center midfielder. It's a hell of a lot of change direction that I'm meant to be doing. And I screwed my hips up and ankles no end. I was just like, yeah, I'm not preparing myself for this, am I? Not good, but interesting. But okay, so should we go more current now, guys? So you two, I would say, are both very much in-person trainers. You agree?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In terms of whether you do group settings or one-to-one PT all the way through, and obviously you both teach educators a lot of the stuff like me and Dan do right over here. Obviously with this Corona stuff, I think a lot of people might be looking for people like yourselves and maybe us too for a little bit more guidance in terms of where do you think you're going with your businesses or with the CFFC or personal wise, and where do you think the industry might be going with this? Obviously it's super soon, so we're not going to hold you to it, but we might check back in about 6 months.
Luckily I had a little bit of an online coaching business before this, and that just kind of led me to stabilize it some more and expand a little bit more in this. So I think I'll see more of that, just because there'll be some hesitation of people wanting to come back to a crowded space. So I think I'll probably stay pretty busy there. The gym has an online training business that'll probably stay pretty busy. And luckily with CFSC, we had launched an online course just prior to this, in January. So, we would have been in a real rough place had we not done that, but that has really it's really taken off because of this. Over the last couple months, it's been really busy. So I think we'll continue to expand kind of our continuing education offerings online to be able to cater to people and figure out how to make that work, because that was a pretty new thing for us. So we'll continue to expand that and just learn from the processes that we have now.
Yeah, I think it shows there's definitely opportunities that we might not have known existed. The way people have sort of gravitated towards things like Zoom that were really I had never been on Zoom before. Things started, and now I spend more time on Zoom than anywhere else really. So it's pretty interesting in that sense. Like we've been doing for our adult groups at the gym. They have all been doing Zoom. That we have basically 9 Zoom groups a week for our clients to keep them engaged, keep them going. So I think even when we open up, we'll probably keep a few of those, assuming that not everyone's going to come back right away. But also, I just think it's extra value. Like if somebody, it's more engagement with people. It's really good for us. I'm thinking like when we have a lot of people that go away for the summer, personal training clients that go away for the summer. They might have summer homes in New Hampshire and in Cape Cod or whatever. So we lose them for several months. So some of this online stuff is going to be really good from a retention standpoint. And then also on the athlete side, we have athletes that come to us sort of in reverse. They'll come to us every summer, but we don't see them much during the year because they're off at school and college and whatever they're doing. So I think all this is going to help us hopefully retain some of those people over the long term.
Yeah, I think that's a big one because we were, both me and Dan were a little bit skeptical because we both have, he has a massive online, he's solely online in terms of his personal training. I do a little bit of online personal training, much like Kevin, it just supplements a little bit. And basically we were a little bit skeptical about literally training someone like by sitting at your screen and them having a screen and working out on it. I think it was kind of like, really? That's always the joke of when somebody's an online coach. It's like, yeah, no, that's what we're actually doing now. It's a little bit, I always feel like, because you have to have a little bit more of a personality on the screen, because I think when we talk about in terms of like, I don't know, recording lectures, etc., we have to add on another like 20% of your personality because you're losing it basically on the screen. And I feel like that has been the hardest thing to get around. But you talked about a group setting there. Something we've been doing at the Personal Training Collective is talk about a like group setting kind of training, and how a lot of people have boot camps or whatever, those clients and the yoga stuff. How are you guys setting out that in terms of having, like you got 9 groups? How's the training, like how does it set out?
So we, and this was all credit Sean DeWhispers and Bruce Mack from our Thrive partnership, MBSC Thrive. They really did a great job setting us up. Basically, as soon as this whole thing happened, they sort of laid out what they'd been doing. So essentially, what we do is have one sort of lead coach goes through the whole workout on camera, so that everyone watches their screen and sees them demonstrating, hears them cueing. And then we have another coach who's at home who watches everyone on screen, and he can pin in and say like, hey, Tom, flatten your back, or Dan, fix your knees, or whatever it may be. So that's been really, really helpful having the 2 coaches there. I don't know how we would do it otherwise, unless it was a one-on-one setting. I think it'd be pretty tough.
I think, like I've been doing some one-on-one stuff with some of my clients, because obviously we've been like, all right, well, this isn't happening for a while, so we might as well start doing this, or like I'm pre-recording like a whole workout, or just like one set of everything, and then being like, this is what's happening, and sending it through to them. But yeah, Dan, your other half, Laura, right? She's doing Pilates based on in terms of group stuff. But is that one of the things that she was kind of complaining about as well, is not being able to check up on, because she normally walks around and sees how the group is performing, right?
Yeah, so we're looking at, she's got like, we've got a smart TV, so she doesn't have to look at a laptop. She can look at like a 50-inch screen at least, so she can kind of see people. But yeah, she sort of does, at any one time, has 20 people in a class, and she usually walks around and can see everyone. And one of the things that if we didn't have the TV, I don't think she'd be able to do it, because obviously everyone's square is so small. But yeah, she sort of said that that's one of the things that she was worried about initially. But actually, everyone finds that if you have a good enough coach, you can see these sorts of things, and the cameras are set up properly. Like it's okay. But I mean, I'd never even considered the idea of having 2 coaches and one doing it and the other one just watching the screen. Like that makes complete sense. But obviously, like most people over here, like most PTs work on their own, or they work as a one. So it's kind of quite hard. Whereas you guys, obviously, a great team, and you kind of all have the same things you'd look out for. So I guess that kind of helps. And yeah, I think it's just fast tracked the whole like online PT and training by 5 years or so. Like it really has had to happen very, very quickly. And like you said, I think the retention tool is great now, because if people go away, they can't be like, oh, I can't get hold of you, I can't train now for 4 weeks. It's like, well, yeah, remember when we did that last year? Like you were fine. And so it kind of like helps with that. And it kind of, people don't really have like say much of an excuse to cancel on things, but it gives that level of accountability. And one thing we talked about was I wouldn't feel 100% comfortable doing a one-on-one Zoom class, or at least I thought so 8 weeks ago. And I think now it's actually a case of the feedback from people's clients that we've spoke to has been, it's the accountability. It's the fact that I'm still turning up for that hour and you're telling me what to do. It's still going to be better than if I did it on my own. And it's been interesting to see how even that people are really putting a lot of value on it. So I think it just shows that as trainers, it's not necessarily always about the facilities you've got in your gym and all that. It is, like we've talked about, is you as a coach. It's if you're a good coach and you've got clients that really enjoy you and like you and think you're good at what you do, you're going to retain your clients. Like if it's Zoom or whatever. I think we talked about before we came on air, like this, what's going on is going to harm a lot of coaches, but they're probably people who maybe were getting by, or who maybe needed to upskill a bit better, who needed to think more about them coaching ability and personality and coming and getting that bit across. And actually those guys that I've spoke to who are doing fine, if anything, they're thriving in this, is people who I know are good coaches. Like I know they are. So it's been interesting to see that develop, because like you say, coaching, it's about that connection you have with your client. It's not about whether you know more in terms of techniques or whatever necessarily. So I think it's been interesting.
We've seen the same thing. The feedback has been it's been positive on all the Zoom stuff, and a lot of it has been clients saying how much they enjoy having that regularly scheduled part of their life back. Like a lot of our clients, they sort of think of, and we try to create it this way, but they think of us as like their third place. And we talk about all the time. They have work, they have home, and they have the gym. And for a lot of them, work has been taken away, and then the gym was taken away. So being able to give them at least one of those back has been huge. And yeah, hopefully that it will go a long way when we do open up. All those people will come back and really appreciate that we were there for them during a pretty tough time. So
yeah, I think on a personal level they will, because they get connected to the coaches. Maybe the gym a little bit. I mean, but yeah, the PT is a retention tool at the end of the day, isn't it? And you're just trying to keep the member coming back. And if they enjoy the experience, then they're going to tell their other people about it, and then like they're coming in, and then you end up training with somebody that you recommend. So that's where that guideline is. Moving on to like in terms of trainers right now, or maybe I don't know, pre-COVID, now, however it moves. You guys obviously really well educated in terms of fitness and the fitness industry. What would you say any people or courses, and you can obviously say your own courses, that you would like people to go and do now? Because we got bombarded with free courses when this thing came out, right? I mean, PTC was one. We sent out a free course and was like, yeah, we did really well. We got about 2,000-3,000 people on it. And we're like, all right, this is good. Thanks for the email list, essentially, and we can use this really well. So we have to upsell a little bit. But is there any people that you particularly have followed throughout your careers, or anything for new PTs? Where should they start?
I mean, obviously, I'd be biased and say our course, but so I think CFSC is a good practical entry. I mean, that's what we want. We created it to be a new barrier of entry for coaches. That's really what we want. And I mean, like I said, luckily that's online now. People can have access to that and get the practical portion where they literally follow me through teaching a practical course. Like it's like there's a camera on me while I was teaching a level 1. And then they have to actually demo and coach online and submit videos where we pass and fail them based on their coaching skills. And I think you're going to see more courses come out like that now. Because to my knowledge, people weren't really requiring an online practical before us. But I think because of this, I think you're going to see a lot of courses that struggle to fill rooms in person in the next year. So I bet you'll see pivots between a lot of these people who are accustomed to doing like live workshops. Hopefully we'll pivot to those, and that'll allow people more access. So as far as courses that like I've been keeping an eye on, I have been tuning. There's been a ton of free webinars right now, and some are good, some are bad. But if knowledge is free and I can gain one thing from that, then it's probably worth it to me, right? And maybe I can filter it into what I do. But I don't know, Dan, have you tuned into anything?
I have. I mean, obviously extremely biased, but I think the CFSC ones have been great. Like Kevin and Damien and Brendan did one the other day that was awesome. It was functional anatomy. There's been so many. Honestly, it's been awesome. I've tuned into a bunch of them, but I think I don't know, none that really, honestly, none that completely stick out. I would say just anything that you were struggling in, like, so for instance, the anatomy one was perfect for me because that was something I knew I didn't have a very good grasp on. So when this whole thing started, I was trying to get up on my anatomy anyways. So that was kind of a perfect timing. So I'll just look for ones that interest me in a particular area. Like I'm very into nutrition stuff right now, so I've been watching a lot of webinars and things like that on nutrition. So yeah, I mean, I think I would just pick an area of interest for you at this time and try to dive into wherever you can find. There's plenty out there.
There's plenty out there as well. Meek, what would you say? Have you any nutrition stuff you can recommend to Dan essentially now as well? Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, I think there's a lot of people giving out a lot of stuff. I feel like I've been emailed by Precision Nutrition about something free. I don't know. And like you say, it's one of those things. I think the PTC, like you guys have given out some free stuff, and I feel like Dean Somerset and Tony Gentlecore have as well. I feel like I saw something that they did, or they were giving away access to stuff that they were doing for free for a month or two, and I think it was worth. I think it was Dean Somerset and Mobility. I can't remember. Something that we're going. Our listeners like those two anyway. They follow them probably. So they did something that I think was definitely free. To sort of like just go look at it. And I think we talked about it at the start when this kicked off, was like it's a great time to really just immerse yourself in that stuff, and like Kevin said, even if it's not great, even if you got one tiny thing, it's like it's worth it. You've got the time. Like everyone always moans they don't have time to do CPD and stuff. It's like, well, guess what, you've now got time to do that. And personal trainers over here, the one thing I would say to the PTs over here is business. Like most people know the fundamentals, like we talked about, the templates and recipes of how to train someone well. Most people struggle with getting leads and understanding how to create business, and it's kind of like, look, you need to know how to market yourself a bit and show your personality. And Tom talked about email lists and stuff. Like if you're going online world, like you need to know how to do that and how to create connections with people, because you can't do it face to face anymore. So guess what, you're going to have to use the written form, learn how to write properly, learn how to engage people in what you do. I think sometimes in our industry people focus too much on learning more about their craft, and it's like you're already at the top of the pyramid. Like just go to a different pyramid and learn the basics of marketing or the basics of communication, that sort of thing. And even like down to psychology, like half of coaching is all about getting in someone's head, right? It's little things like that. I think people need to think laterally rather than just going, I want to learn a bit more about plyometrics. It's like, how much are you going to use that on a daily basis now? You're better off going down another route. That's been the advice I've given people who have asked, is you've got the time to really go for that. And chances are, if you know less about it, you're going to learn far more in a short space of time than if you go for something that's so niche down that you're going to pick up one tiny thing that you already know a lot about. That's what I've been recommending anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting how you say that, because right now I am currently course writing and reviewing the new level 2 and level 3 industry standards for the UK. So they change as of September. So at the PTC, we have to review everything, refilm everything, and set out new standards and what we're actually doing. So there's completely new manuals. There's like 4 new modules and units, and one of them is marketing. And it talks about social media, and it talks about all this kind of stuff and being positive in terms of that. So that's obviously filtered into our governing body, like UK Active and SimSpa and all those guys, and the Register of Exercise Professionals. So it's interesting how you say that, because that's definitely something that maybe when we started 10 years ago wasn't really a thing, like especially at Third Space. So we got bought out. It's not how you guys know it, okay, from Boston. Like when we were there for about 2 years, and then it got bought out. We were never allowed to use social media in the club at all.
Wow.
So it was because it was, as Dan said, the third space. It was in terms of celebrities or people of like high employment CEOs and stuff. They wanted to get away from anything like that. They were just like, no, I don't want to see any cameras, like phones, all that kind of stuff. It was away, but obviously how the industry's going, it's just, we couldn't cope like that, but it moved away from it. So yeah, it's interesting you say that. It's definitely stuff to move into. The one thing I think I don't know whether it's just because it's all body weight and stuff. There's been limited equipment. All us coordinators have been looking at Altis, so looking through the sprint mechanic stuff right now. That has been something, especially with a lot more people getting into running. It seems like my girlfriend, one of them, like wants to work up to being doing a 10K. So it's like, all right, well, we should probably learn how to coach somebody to run a little bit better, maybe upskill that a little bit. So that might be a big thing in terms of, it's definitely something you can do on your own. We can do it outside whilst we're in the lockdown. So that seemed to be a thing that we directed, like third space PTs. They did like 2-3 weeks for free, looking at all their stuff as well on Altis, which is decent. Right, guys, there's one thing I know that both me and Dan want to know, is did either of you have Ben Bruno under your wing whilst you were at CFSC?
Oh, yeah. He was an intern. He was an intern while I was working there for a long time. I remember his first day. Let me tell you this story. I mean, I'll tell you, he's the nicest guy. So I was originally supposed to intern at another gym in the same town as MBSC. Just happened to be, because he's from New Hampshire, so he's probably about 45 minutes, hour away from where we are. He drove down to do that internship, and this guy who was running the gym where he was going to intern was a real jerk. And Ben gets there and he goes, "Hey, sorry, I gave the position to my brother." So Ben looked up MBSC and just drove across town and walked in like right after a staff meeting. We had just had a staff meeting, I remember. And Ben comes walking in. He's short but like jacked. And he's like, "Hey guys, like I was supposed to intern at this other place, but like, could I intern here?" And we were like, we always say like in the fall or the spring, like fall especially, we don't get as many internship apps. I always say like, "Hey, if you want to intern in the fall and you have a pulse, we'll take you." So like he came in and we were actually kind of short interns then. We were like, "Yeah, actually we kind of need some people." And he was a nice enough guy when we first met him, and he was real personable. So we were like, "Yeah, come tomorrow." And I'll never forget this story. Like Marco Sanchez and I were in the hallway. And if you always see Ben, he's got like funny T-shirts on, right? Like he even sells the funny ones still now. But if you go to Target, I don't know if you have Target over there. They have funny graphic T-shirts, and he had like a Ninja Turtle shirt on. And I'll never forget this. Marco saying to him like, "Hey Ben, I like your shirt." And he goes, "Oh, I got another one in the back here." And I remember him just giving it to Marco, like right in the hot. Like he's just a very friendly guy. So, but I worked with him for a number of years, the entire time he was there. Yeah, pretty much daily.
And when I think he was there when I first started for probably, we might have crossed over for a year or so. He was always in. We had a second facility in North Andover, which I don't actually. Now it's in Middleton. I don't know if you guys saw that.
No,
when you were, but he was up there mostly. So I didn't have a ton of interaction with him, but I do remember. I mean, he was always really, really nice. Especially like, again, I was a new employee. Really good guy.
No, he's absolutely a hero. I absolutely love the guy. I think it's, as you talked about personality and like, I suppose, social media and stuff, like just like it's just spot on, exactly what the world needs. Like people take life too seriously, training too seriously, and he just I think his whole philosophy, you can tell he's come from a facility like MBSC where he's got his 10 commandments. It's like you just got to do stuff that you might not like it, but you just got to do it. And if you're in pain, don't train, and all that sort of stuff. And all these mantra, but it's just his sense of humor and it's just that dry. I just love it. He's such a hero. Like I love watching his stuff. Every time it pops up, I always unmute it. I sit down, I watch it. I just love the guy. I think he's great. But he's made a career for himself there, hasn't he? Flipping out, training the guys that he trains. But it just shows that we talked about. He's got 7-foot basketball players, and he's got 5-foot nothing actresses. It's like he trains them all the same way. Like you can see that he just has that fundamental knowledge of what he's doing. And I just like how he doesn't try to be something he's not. And I think in an industry where with nearly, I suppose, must have nearly 250,000 followers or whatever, it'd be very easy to go down a route that's probably a bit more traditional in that sense, but he's just stuck to his guns and like, no, I am who I am. Like I train my mum still, like I have these T-shirts. It's just he's just so authentic, and you can see that that's who he is. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's some of his quotes and some of the stuff he comes out with, especially with some of the celebrities he trains.
Yeah.
Brilliant. But he trains that guy, that comedian guy that he trains, Phil. Oh,
Phil Rosenthal, yeah.
Fucking love it. Every time I'm just like, I crack up. But you know what's coming, but it's still funny.
You're like, he's always going to be doing something like cleaning or going getting the shops. And he's like, all right. With the lockdown thing, he sent him to go like get his shopping. He was like, yeah. He was like, it took me 90 minutes. I was like, 90 minutes? Oh, I only charge you like 60-minute session. So slightly.
Well, part of why I think he's been so successful with that high profile population is because of his authenticity. Like, and like you said, like the Ben that you see there, that's who he is, like all the time. Like he's a very authentic guy, very nice guy. And I think you have to be weary, especially in LA. You have a lot of those like fake celebrity trainer types who don't know anything, and they're always looking for something, right? They want to get an edge by meeting these celebrity people, and Ben just wants to help people. So I think that has done more to help his business than anything because of his so authentic with everyone that comes to see him. I think the real people probably are endeared to that.
Oh, massively.
I remember him coming back probably about a year after he had moved out to LA. He came back and everyone was asking him about Jessica Biel and Justin Timberlake and everything like that. And he was like, yeah, well, like how the MC kids doing? Like all he cared about, he wanted to train. And he was home. He was like on vacation. He was home for a week and he wanted to train the hockey kids that he had from the summer before, like for free. Because he just loves, that's what he loves to do. So I always thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, he just seems like a downright decent guy, doesn't he? All right. Should we end with just 4 little things that we kind of like to ask all our guests in terms of random stuff, because we have awards every year or whatever, but we tend to be known for talking about cereal and burgers and diet drinks. So we kind of need to cover all these 3 bases in terms of specialties or stuff that you particularly like. Obviously, this is all fitness based, so especially the cereal and burgers. Diet sodas, cool. As you can see, both me and Dan, we always have. We had
the same one today.
We had the same one. Right? We normally like coordinate and talk about at the start of what we've gone for, and we go for Sublime Lime Diet Cokes.
Very nice.
Decent. They're pretty good, aren't they? They're all right. They're quite refreshing.
I like them.
Yeah. Chloe was skeptical, but she puts lime in fucking everything. When she was like, "Oh, I don't know about the drink," I was like, "What? What are you on about?"
My new favorite. I got it. I got this imported from the States the other day. Is the new flavor? This is my new favorite Monster. Like it's like a tropical flavor, like Fiesta. We cut over here. We just get the basic flavors of Monster. But if you get that's the 0-calorie stuff. Don't go for the sugar. There's 70 grams of sugar bombs. I couldn't handle that. I couldn't handle that. I'd be sitting there like shaking. But they've just come out over here. But this is where we find out the real you, I suppose. If we really like you, is based on your burger choice.
Oh, I like this. I like this
cereal. And of course with the burger you get a milkshake, so that's kind of like an extra.
So we got to see so obviously in the States you have different guidelines on cereal, and we will tend to concur and say that cereal in the States way better than cereal in the UK.
Yeah, you're allowed to put more sugar and colors in it.
Put anything you like in it.
Yeah.
Oh my God! You go down that aisle, there is some crazy shit in the cereal aisle, man. It's even since we were kids, it has progressed.
Yeah, we just get this is really good for you and high fiber wheat based cereal that's got no taste. Great, thanks. We want something round full of chocolate. So whenever I've ever been to States, I'm I just go from nuts to the cereal. It's incredible.
So if you two are going to pick one, what are you going to go for? Recommendation?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
There we go.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Because the milk after, you can just drink it. Oh, it's nice.
Yeah, that's a big category. That's best leftover milk residue of of cereal is a big thing, right? Because there was a point that I didn't really like it. There's certain cereals that are I don't know. If it's chocolate or cinnamon.
Yeah, I actually have a protein powder that is like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And if you put it in the almond milk, when you make a shake, it tastes like the milk after. That's why I buy it.
I've got mine is literally called cinnamon cereal milk.
Oh, the ghost! Yeah.
Called it. That's why I got it. I was sat there I do the same thing. I'm Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I'm this is going to be incredible.
It's amazing.
I was very impressed with it.
It's all about what it does to the milk after. I was going to say Fruit Loops for the same reason. Fruit Loops, the milk after Fruit Loops was phenomenal. That and the there's a little chocolate. There were little chocolate pellets Not Cocoa.
Cocoa Pebbles.
Cocoa Pebbles. That Cocoa Pebbles might be number 2 on my list.
You pick like 3 things that generally aren't sold over here.
Yeah, those things are not sold.
You can buy them. Like we have American candy stores on like a little bit of an aisle, maybe in a Tesco or an Asda or something like that. Definitely not in Waitrose, where me and Dan
No, you don't get them.
but more like the American candy shops on like Oyster Street and stuff like that. And they end up being like 10 quid a box. So yeah, that's just bonkers.
It's
like
not worth it, is it?
$13, and it's just like, yeah, is that really a box of cereal? That shouldn't be how much it is. So you're going through that. All right, we're gonna go. What would you say? Diet soda or diet drinks? We tend to go towards diet because we don't drink full fat ones because we'd rather eat our burgers essentially. So
I'm a Diet Coke guy. I have a bunch of Diet Coke like just on the other, like across the room. But no lime. I don't like things in it. Just the plain Diet Coke.
Oh really? Wow.
Yeah.
They brought out all their peach one, the strawberry one, all that stuff. I'm a kicker for that. I think we like the slight variations of. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Sprite. I actually am not a diet soda fan. I'm a regular. I go regular Sprite if I'm gonna do it.
Regular Sprite. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I can definitely taste the difference. 100%.
Yeah.
Just like,
100% you can. If I'm going out to a restaurant, I want to treat myself like a full fat, a full sugar Dr Pepper. It's just different class. Like, can't beat it.
All right, and burgers. Bearing in mind, we have had Tony G and Dr. Lisa Lewis on previously, and they're both Boston-based, correct? I hope we were listening.
Yes.
They had some great ideas for their burgers.
Yeah, Tony G is pretty up there, wasn't he? He had a good.
Yeah.
I think it's probably.
I actually want to try his. Try his
in terms of like the burger. But then also was it who did it? The lad who swam around the UK.
Ross Edgley,
thank you. He had a decent the donut burger, right? That was.
Ooh, I've had that.
His was the patty with the cheese and bacon with 2 Krispy Kremes.
Wow.
Bonkers.
You can have literally anything on your burger. Like you could have literally anything you want.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be a real burger. You can make it
I
up.
think Tony G went before, but yeah, what's your burger and shake combo if you could have anything?
So there's this place in Boston called Boston Burger Company.
That
has like 50 different burgers you can get. And traditionally, if I go there, they have a couple that I like. One that I'll typically always get. It's got like 2 toasted buns. Then it's a double burger with cheese on each and bacon on each and avocado on each, on a big toasted bun. That's like a classic. Like that's what I would get. Like you got to add the fats between the bacon and the avocado and the cheese. Like it really adds to the taste. And then they also have what they call the 420 burger, which has onion rings, mozzarella sticks, cheese. I think there's I'm not sure. There's a bunch of fried foods that top the burger, but that one you gotta sleep for the rest of the day after you eat it. So you gotta kind of plan your day out.
I was gonna say Boston Burger Company too. We'll have to bring you guys down to Boston Burger Company next time you're there. So that, and there's also a place called Tip Tap Room. Kev, I don't know if you've been to Tip Tap Room.
By the garden there, yeah.
In the garden, yeah, that has a really good burger. They have like a bison. It's like bison and bacon and cheese and onion and all sorts of everything stacked on this burger.
Yeah.
But Boston Burger Company is great because you can get the shakes are amazing there too. It's a one-stop shop. You get your burger, you get your shake.
Decent.
Yeah.
I think the one that we've been going back. I know it's over in Bath, but they should do it more. Do you guys have the Lotus biscuits?
No.
Oh wow!
So you see, they have over here. They have this. It's kind of like it's called caramelized biscuit. So it's just like a really sweet, sugary, cinnamony biscuit, and they turned it into a spread. And they do one where you have your burger with bacon, and then you have this Biscoff spread in it. And it sounds weird because it's kind of sweet and cinnamony, but it just works on the bacon and the beef, and there's no cheese in it, I don't think. But yeah, I think Tony G had a similar thing. His was that. I think it was some sort of cinnamon spread, and it really works. It's so
yeah,
good.
I think maybe when we come back out, I'll bring some Biscoff spread out, and it's so good.
It's a whole sweet and savory thing. It works.
Just, it just works so well. Cutting through
that
with bacon.
Sounds great.
is absolutely decent.
You see, with those sorts of burgers, I always have like a quite a plain shake. That you can't have like a really chocolatey shake with that. It's too much. Like you have to have I prefer quite a simple one, but you know, each to their own, isn't it? With that.
Each to their own. All right. For any of our listeners, where can they find you two on social media? We're going to share a bunch of our stuff anyway, but
most of my training info would be on our Instagram. It's at Movement is Medicine. Pretty much any of the educational stuff would go through there, and then at Certified FSC as far as our upcoming courses and educational opportunities, things like that.
Yeah, and mine's on my personal account, so it's Dan Mcginley 617, and that's where you'll find me.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think we'll share it out when it's out, and I'm sure especially some of the advice and stuff. I think people are going to be looking to you guys, and so especially what we have as Third Space, right, as probably one of the leading companies in London, looking at how you guys do things and trying to implement it here. And it's definitely, I feel like we've always said it in terms of S&C that like, I don't know, either the UK or like America think of an idea and then you guys do it, and then we kind of mull over it for about 5-10 years until like, oh yeah, it's working over there, and then we'll start doing it over here. So it feels like the stuff that you're already doing is trying to filter over here, which is great. But yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, thanks for having us.
Wonderful. Hopefully that we'll be out of quarantine soon.
Yes.
Hopefully end of the summer, you guys will be back in Boston.
Yeah, we can pray.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll be back in Boston. Maybe we can tag Dan along. Like, we can bring Isabel. She is
come on.
session.
I can fit in a suitcase. I'm pretty small. It's fine. I reckon. Get away with it. You know.
Isabel needs some training over there. So, I mean, she's almost going to be 5 years old soon. So
that's it, mate. If any excuse for holiday, you know, after this, mate, I reckon there's no problem. Like, that's the other thing is, I just feel like I want to get away now. I'm like, oh my god, I'm ready for holiday straight away. Yeah, we'll see. I could do with a break. I'll just, I'll say it's work, and I'll leave them behind. I'll come out. We can have like a lad's day, holiday in America. Even better. It's work.
If we visit the gym, then it's a business expense. So
exactly.
It's true.
It's taxable. All right, guys. Thanks for coming on, and we'll catch you guys next week.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.